listener production.
Hey, Chris Spyrou with you. Happy Friday and welcome to The Briefing. A soccer team of Uber drivers and tradies is having a crack at etching their names into Australian history tomorrow. So what exactly are they doing and how did they make it this far?
Well, you've got players who are playing on the weekend who have to fit training around work or fit work around training. And they do train a lot, almost as much as an A-League setup, but not getting paid the same, not getting the rewards, not having the absolute professionalism that the A-League players are afforded.
That deep dive into how one team's fairy tale finish could change football in Australia forever is coming up in the second half of this episode. First though, let's get into the headlines with Tara Cassidy. It's Friday the 3rd of October.
Hey Chris, and to you listening, we're starting in the UK this morning where police have confirmed there's been a terror attack after a man appearing to be strapped with explosives drove a car into pedestrians and stabbed a security guard at a synagogue in Manchester. 2 people were killed and at least 3 others are in a serious condition, with footage from the scene showing armed police warning people to get away from the building.
Get back! If you're not involved, move back! Get away! Somebody stay with casualties! Everybody else! He has a bomb! Go away! He's got a bomb on him! He's got a bomb!
The officers then shot and killed the suspect, later saying they know his identity. The device found on him wasn't viable and they have made 2 arrests in relation to the incident.
The attack comes as a large number of people were worshipping on one of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar, Yom Kippur, with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying the timing of it made it all the more horrific.
The attack in Manchester this morning is absolutely shocking, and all of our thoughts are with those affected. I'm already able to say that additional police assets are being deployed to synagogues across the country, and we will do everything to keep our Jewish community safe.
The Prime Minister, who was attending a European security summit in Denmark, cut short his trip to return home and has since said while the incident was shocking, it is not surprising.
Jewish buildings, synagogues, even schools require round-the-clock protection. Today's horrific incident shows why. And while this is not a new hate, we must be clear. It is a hatred that is rising once again. And Britain must defeat it once again.
Now, look, a little bit of context to that holy day, Tara, Yom Kippur, that happens 10 days after Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and it's a day where many Jewish people go to synagogues right across the country, wherever they are, even those who aren't extremely devout. So it's very similar to Christmas or Easter for Christians. And, you know, in Australia, that's when a lot of Christians who even don't practice or aren't devout, they go to church. So many don't work on this day. They unplug from technology, they unplug from phones, TV, social media. So it's very likely there are a lot of Jewish people in the UK that were not made immediately aware of what happened in Manchester, which is terrifying. And, you know, there's no doubt that this attack will be a reminder for a lot of people of the 2017 suicide bombing attack in Manchester at that Ariana Grande concert that killed 22 people and injured hundreds others. While this event isn't as large as that, it is still devastating.
New footage has come to light showing the wife of accused cop killer Dezi Freeman meeting with the fugitive on a bush road shortly after the deadly shootout. On August 26, 10 police attended the Porpunka property in northeast Victoria to serve Freeman a warrant over historical sexual assault allegations before 2 officers were shot dead within minutes and another injured.
According to The Australian, the pair's neighbour Naomi Wilson says her security camera captured Marley Freeman and her children meeting with Dezi on a nearby road just before he disappeared, with Miss Freeman then seen getting picked up by a car driven by her son Koa Freeman and rushed from the scene. She says she handed over the footage to police about half an hour after the shooting took place.
Yeah, and look, if this is true, this might make a bit of sense of why at the time police said that they were speaking with Marley Freeman, but they said that there's a difference between speaking with cops and cooperating with them, and they didn't really elaborate, but now it seems like, aka, she wasn't necessarily helping them in their search for her husband. Police are still trying to piece together how he escaped and basically whether he's being helped to evade their arrest, with no confirmed sightings of him in 5.5 weeks. Now, there is a $1 million reward for information that leads to Dezi Freeman's arrest that's still on offer.
A peak body for sexual violence will be launched in Queensland in a landmark move that hopes to support survivors that are reporting sexual assaults at record rates.
I know will be well received
and welcomed across the sector and across our state, particularly over the course of the last several years, where we've seen a significant increase in victims of sexual violence.
That was Minister Amanda Cam speaking there. Last year, the rates of reported sexual assaults in Queensland jumped by 11%, amounting to a 32-year high. Nationwide, the figures increased by 10%, with over 40,000 victims recorded in Australia in 2024, the most since data first started getting recorded. Now, despite those incredibly alarming rates, this new body in Queensland is only the second of its kind in the country, with the first launched in Victoria in 1992.
Yeah, that's right. And it's hoped that with the launch of this new body, more survivors will feel able to come forward. And the figures do at least suggest that. I know that when speaking to police about these record rates in the past, because they just do seem to go up year on year on year, they do say that, yes, there are more sexual assaults, but the stats also reflect, at the very least, a shift in survivors now feeling more able to come forward to report what's happened to them when previously they weren't. So this sexual violence body, as well as a similar domestic and family violence peak body, are expected to be operating by 2026.
If you had to put a dollar figure on the clothes you've got that you don't wear, what would it be? Well, new research estimates there is $25 billion worth of unworn clothes in wardrobes right across the country, translating to about $1,000 per Aussie. The data from the Australian Red Cross and Uber shows that while the average Aussie owns around 60 items of clothing, nearly a fifth of them aren't worn, adding up to more than 231 million pieces, which is enough to fill not one, not two, but 139 swimming pools, Tara.
Oh, I feel very seen here. Me and my 3 cupboards full of clothes, yet I wear the same 10 items day after day, week after week. Now, they also found that 2/3 of us would give more to charity if it was easier, with many of us claiming to be too time poor or uncertain what products they can actually donate. Now, this research has dropped ahead of the Red Cross and Uber's 7th clothing drive, where Aussies basically in Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth can book free Ubers to go and pick up high-quality clothes from their homes later this month, which they say will help remove the main barriers to donating clothes.
Yeah, and look, usually I'm very sceptical of research dropped by major brands like Uber because, yes, we always think to ourselves, well, what's in it for them? Obviously, there's, the positive PR element to all of this, but if it means we actually get decent clothes out of people's homes and reaching those who need it, I mean, I'm here for it and I don't hate it.
And we wanted to finish the week off again with some thoughts from you guys, our listeners. We asked you a few questions in our broadcast channel Behind the Briefing, which, by the way, if you're yet to join us on Instagram, please do. We love hearing from you guys.
Yes, and the first question we asked was off the back of that story about those 2 legendary Victorian police officers who finished the delivery for a DoorDash driver that they pulled over. And we wanted to know if you guys had any bizarre police encounters yourself.
Yes, which, Chris, you actually posted your own, which was you avoided getting a party shut down once by offering them souvlaki,
Correct.
which is how very ethnic of you, which I'm allowed to say as a fellow ethnic.
Correct.
You, waving the Greek flag there. Now, Gloria said that cops at Northbridge, which is in New South Wales, are legends because one of their bicycle-mounted cops agreed to race her and a friend at 4 a.m. once, which I love. I want to know who won.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Claire had to give a witness statement once, and she said she had to take the computer off the officer to type it because he couldn't.
Oh, rough day at the office. And my personal favourite, Chris, one former officer themselves wrote in saying she actually pulled over someone once just to pat their dog and it made her and the driver's day. And all I can say is if this isn't me as a cop, I do not know what is. Any opportunity to pat a dog, I am in.
Very on brand. And look, we also asked you guys about Donald Trump and whether he should receive a Nobel Peace Prize on the back end of that deep dive Helen Smith did this week. And absolutely all of you, except one person who was on the fence, said a resounding no. He does not deserve a Nobel Peace Prize. Now, look, that brings our headlines to a close for today and this week. Coming up next is my deep dive, looking into the soccer team of tradies and Uber drivers. They've toppled some massive A-League teams and are on the cusp of making history. How they did it and what it means for the future of football in Australia is coming up for you next. History has its eyes on Melbourne this weekend, where a soccer team of tradies and Uber drivers is taking on an A-League powerhouse in the finals of a national tournament.
From 720 clubs, which began the Australia Cup 2025, one of the finalists is a semi-professional side from NPL Victoria. Heidelberg United continue to make history.
Yep, Heidelberg United is just one win away from becoming the first ever semi-professional team to lift the Australian Cup, going up against the Newcastle Jets at Lakeside Stadium on Saturday night. Now, Heidelberg already took out the top spot in their own comp, Victoria's National Premier League, or NPL, last month, but whilst on the road to this weekend's grand final, they managed to knock out 3 professional sides, including the Western Sydney Wanderers and billionaire-backed Auckland FC.
A third consecutive cup set against A-League opposition, the defending premiers no less. The magic of the cup is well and truly alive.
So how exactly did a team of tradies get here? What does this mean for the game, and how on earth does a Bali holiday come into the mix? John Anastasiadis is the head coach of Heidelberg. You'll hear from him a little later. But first, let's bring in sports journo and co-host of Listeners' Willow Talk and Footy Talk League, Adam Peacock. Adam, welcome back to the briefing. Now, this is being slated as a David versus Goliath matchup, but just how significant is this game for Australian football?
Oh, it's brilliant in the sense that it is what the Australia Cup is meant to be. It's the NPL second-tier teams from around Australia who play in their own state competitions. One of them has made it through again to play an A-League club, and Newcastle Jets have been in the A-League for a very long time. And before that, Newcastle itself has got a rich history in Australian football going way, way back. So it's good to see you'd almost call them a foundation A-League club, given their history before the formation of the A-League in 2005. But playing against Heidelberg, who have long been a NSL club, into the NPL setup in Australia, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And the fact that it's in Melbourne ahead, in front of all Heidelberg's faithful, with a couple of away travellers as well, should make for a great atmosphere.
Yeah, and for anyone who's not in the know, I mean, Heidelberg is a club with Greek foundation, so the Greek community is on fire at the moment and very excited for the weekend ahead. But what do you think it says about the A-League, which is meant to be Australia's top professional football league, that they're being matched up against an NPL team here in a national knockout comp?
It says that the professionalism that's come into the NPL setup, because that's semi-professional. You got players who are playing on the weekend who have to fit training around work or fit work around training. And they do train a lot. The Heidelberg guys are training almost as much as an A-League setup, but not getting paid the same, not getting the rewards, not having the absolute professionalism that the A-League players are afforded. But it says that I wouldn't say the gap's closing. I don't like to say, there's a gap there and it needs closing or it's widening or whatever. There is a first tier A-League, second tier NPL clubs. But it proves that there's enough talent around that if you get it right in a coaching sense, if you get the recruitment right, you can challenge those A-League clubs. Look, the A-League clubs in the Australia Cup are in their pre-season phase, and the NPL clubs are at the end of their season. So they're battle-hardened when it comes up. So I'm surprised this actually hasn't happened more, but it's great that it's happened this season. Which is probably a perfect time for me to ask, for anyone unfamiliar, we're talking here about the Australia Cup. A cup is different to a league. Can you explain the differences for someone listening? Okay, a cup is knockout. Yes. So you play a game, and at the end of that game, there's a winner and there's a loser, and the loser is out and cannot win said cup. Winner goes on with the hope of winning the cup. The league, you lose a game, okay, it's a setback, but it's played over the course of, say, 26 games in an A-League. Overseas in the Premier League, for instance, it's 38 games. The team with the most points at the end wins the trophy, as opposed to the cup. You just got to keep winning. Yeah. And you win that last game, you get the trophy and you get to celebrate. Yeah, which is what Heidelberg's hoping to do this time, having won their NPL season and then going off to hopefully win the Australia Cup. Now, the Australia Cup started in the 1960s and it was the first national knockout competition in this country. It lasted a few years, disappeared, and then it came back in 2014, something that you are well across. What was the reaction at the time when it came back? The return of the cup competition in Australia, then called the FFA Cup, they've now called it the Australia Cup, was greeted with open arms by everyone in Australian football. And that's hard to do because Australian football, I've long said it, is like this big farm with a heap of paddocks, but everyone only cares about their paddock. They don't care about the farm. this competition has brought everyone back on the same page. This competition starts in like January and February with the early rounds played in localised areas.
Yeah, my club was in it, got knocked out.
Got knocked out, yeah. It's a horrible feeling. But you make it through. Yeah. And then they've set it up that it gets to the last 32, and that's when the A-League clubs come in, the majority of them come in to mesh up against these state-based teams, and then they get to prove themselves on the national competition. It's incredible. I've been at so many great nights at these grounds in suburbia where the place just comes alive and it feels like proper football. England has its FA Cup and everyone talks about how great that cup competition is. Everywhere around the world has their own cup competitions. We've got our own, and it's as good in terms of a community sense for football as anywhere else.
What would a win like this do for a semi-professional club like Heidelberg?
Well, firstly, Heidelberg winning this means that in a football sense, they get to go and play against some of the best teams in Asia. They get to go into an Asian competition, a confederational competition, which is pretty significant because they are still part-time players. What it does for those players, it puts them in the shop window to maybe get more out of football when perhaps they thought that the professional game had let them go. It's just vindication for the makeup of this competition that, yes, everyone who enters it has a chance of winning it. Yeah, a lot has to go right. Many things have to go right, and they have for Heidelberg so far. But yeah, it's significant, and there will be a lot of people in Australian football cheering Heidelberg on. And that's not to denigrate the Newcastle Jets, who have done damn well to get to this. So that's what makes this final something unique and something to look forward to.
Adam Peacock, thanks for joining us on The Briefing.
No worries.
All right, now let's hear from the man who's led Heidelberg through to this weekend's final. John Anastasiadis, welcome to The Briefing. Your squad's being described as a team of tradies and Uber drivers. How fitting is that description?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, these boys are, football's a sort of hobby for them, and it's not the full-time job for them, but they've all got jobs. There's civil engineers, there's Uber drivers, there's financial advisors, you name it. Normal people going about their normal job and playing football as a side hustle, I suppose, if you want to put it that way. But they're enjoying the fruits of it at the moment. And I reckon after this cup final finishes up, I reckon some of them may even take out full time, hopefully.
Now, look, knocking out one A-League squad is pretty impressive for those not in the know, but then going on to knock out another two and reach the final is huge. How did you guys do it?
We've been training since November the 11th last year, so training intensely, and a lot of belief in the boys because I think they wanted to achieve something this year, considering the fact that they've put in so much hard work. And, I suppose when you work hard, you get your rewards. And at the moment, we've been lucky enough to be in two other finals. And now we've got another one. So, they are getting their rewards for their hard work. So that's all it is. It's hard work, a lot of belief, a lot of training. And, the boys have got a really good understanding of each other. Their dressing rooms is a fantastic environment at the moment. They're more than players or acquaintances. They're actually friends and brothers off the field. So all that plays a part.
Now, you've said previously that if you guys went on to win the final, this could change things in Australian football more broadly. Why is that?
I think it'll change the perception of the NPL. Is a banana skin league, I've been told before. It's been NPL, and that's not right because I think the NPL's got some great talent coming through. A lot of the players are in the A-League, went through the NPL system. And now, we just want, I suppose, the powers to be to recognise it as a very significant part of the Australian football pyramid. Maybe now the NPL can be the springboard for players to go into the top league, which is the A-League. So from that point of view, I see it as a game changer.
You mentioned a little bit earlier the vibe in the change rooms at the moment. The vibes are high among the boys and the team. What can you tell us about the community reaction to this? How is the wider club feeling about the weekend? Talk to us about that.
They're all jumping up and down. They're all happy. And that's ultimately our job as footballers and as coaches to make our people, our supporters, the community in general, just to say, well, this is a real fairy tale story that an NPL club is in the FA Cup final, which is a massive achievement. And it just gives a good vibe around everyone. And, hopefully we win it, and eventually we'll go to another level, I reckon, especially the Greek community. Who knows what could happen.
Now, John, I got to know, we heard reports earlier that the boys had booked a trip to Bali that they were supposed to either be on at the moment or a week ago before they had qualified for this weekend's finals. Did anyone have to rebook and reschedule flights?
Yeah, well, I think they did. They actually sold their tickets to another footballing club, the Avondale Boys, since we progressed. So they did a good business transaction. I think we've got a lot of businessmen in our team, so they did a great business transaction. And hopefully after this cup final, they can finally go on that trip that they long for.
Great. John, it sounds like we're going to be adding Uber drivers, engineers and businessmen to the long list of players that are in your team. We wish you all the very best on Saturday. Good luck, and Australian sporting history has its eyes on you.
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
That was head coach of Heidelberg, John Anastasiadis, speaking with me there, and listeners Adam Peacock before him. And if you want to catch Saturday's final, it'll be live on Channel 10 or Paramount Plus. That is it for this episode of The Briefing. I'm Spyrou. I'll catch you next time.